Okay, then everybody, you will now have 5 minutes of time to read the case notes. During
I'm
these
in
five
Mohali.
minutes, I'll come to you, Mohali, just a second. Just listen to the instructions first, and then I'll take the names in Mohali as well. So you'll have 5 minutes of time to read the case notes, during which you would not be allowed to write anything. You would just be reading them. When you're reading them, for all those who have started reading, this extra time you're not going to get in the examination. No? So what's the use of reading with the extra time now? Stop reading. I'll give you the time. During the 5 minutes of time, the first thing that you read is the writing task, where you have the information about the recipient and the purpose. The purpose is mostly mentioned in the writing task, but if it's not there in the writing task, you go to the information about the writing task and you read the whole set so that you can identify to whom you're writing. And once you have the information about the recipient and the purpose, you start reading the case notes from the beginning. So, when you're reading the case notes, your complete concentration needs to be on the case notes. And you need to identify, if you have not identified what's the purpose, so you need to find out the purpose. And also, according to the recipient and the purpose, in your mind, you should start doing the calculation of what information should you include in the letter and what not. But all of this in your mind, nothing on paper, because writing, underlining, highlighting, anything is not allowed in the first 5 minutes. After the first 5 minutes are up, then you can highlight, mark anything on the case notes and also complete your letter. Now, I want all of you to keep your pens and pencils away. And Mohali, yes, who are the new students in Mohali?
I'm from Karan, Manpreet Kaur.
Manpreet from Kharad and
Amandeep.
Amandeep.
Amandeep Arora.
Okay, noted. All right. Then Amandeep and Manpreet we have here in class today in Mohali and 3 online students. Fine. Okay, I'm setting the timer for 5 minutes. Keep your pens and pencils
Ma'am,
away.
one more student.
Where is she?
She, ma'am.
Aman, where is he? Can you ask him to probably raise
Ma'am,
his
on
hand?
last year. Rana?
Okay, what's his name?
Ravneet. Dr. Ravneet, ma'am.
Dr.
Ravneet.
Ravneet it is. Okay, yeah, Dr. Ravneet it is. All right, noted everyone. Thank you. Now let's start reading the case notes. Your 5 minutes begin now. And thank you, Aman.
Ma'am, screen is not visible.
Just 1 second. You read it in your phone. They're asking me to report something. I don't want to report anything. Okay, everybody, have you all read the case notes? Yes, no?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, you have. How do you find them? Are they easy or difficult?
Difficult.
Difficult. Okay. Others, how do you find them? Difficult again? Good morning, everyone. Wake up, please. How do you find the case notes?
Ma'am, moderate.
Moderate. Moderate and difficult?
Yes.
Hold on. Okay. Oh, now I lost Mohali. I think this game will continue. All right, I've asked them to connect. All right, now that some of us find them difficult and then some of us find them to be moderate, let's make them easier for ourselves. The first thing that we're going to read is the writing task, which says you are the charge nurse or doctor on the neurological ward where AMIR AKBARI has stayed for most of his hospital admission. Using information provided in the case notes, write a letter of referral to the charge nurse at Prince Henry Rehabilitation Center, Malabar Bay, where he will be transferred to for rehabilitation after discharge from your ward. So the first thing that we are trying to find out is to whom are we writing the letter? That is the person who's going to receive this letter. Namrata, can you help us? Who's the recipient in this case today?
Uh, who is the recipient?
Yes,
Charge nurse?
a charge nurse is the recipient.
Yes.
And where does this charge nurse work?
Ma'am, at Prince Henry Rehabilitation Center.
Right, the charge nurse works at Prince Henry Rehabilitation Center. Because in order to be able to understand the job role of this charge nurse, it is important for us to know where this charge nurse works. So, this charge nurse is a nurse who's responsible either for handling the care of the patient in a particular ward or handling the care of one particular patient. She would be in charge of it. But in what kind of a ward or facility does she work? That would determine the kind of care that she's going to provide to the patient. So this charge nurse works at a rehabilitation center. Namrata, can you also tell us what happens at a rehabilitation center? What type of care do they provide there?
Ma'am, if patient is suffering from like any particular problem,
Mm-hmm.
like there are different kind of rehabilitation center,
Mm-hmm.
like
No, a rehabilitation center is a facility which is responsible for ensuring the recovery of the patient. Now, what do I mean by recovery? In our country, what happens is the patient is not discharged until and unless the complete recovery happens. So, for as long period as is required after the treatment as well, the patient is there in the hospital itself. But in the West, this is not how it happens. In the West, if the hospital is the place where the treatment is provided. The recovery for that period, the patients are sent to rehabilitation centers and rehabilitation hospitals. Now, what are these facilities? Rehabilitation centers or care centers are facilities where the patient stays during the recovery period or where the recovery of the patient happens. So during this period, the patient would be in the recipient's facility and will receive care from the recipient so that the patient can recover. For example, patients, let's say, who had an accident and they received treatment in the hospital, probably a surgery or so, but they're still not able to mobilize and they require a lot of nursing care, a lot of nursing attention. In that case, the person is sent to the rehabilitation center so that they can recover there before they can be sent home. So rehabilitation centers are ensure rehabilitation of the patient. And what is rehabilitation? Regaining of the normal health or recovery of the patient to the normal health. So, since in this case the name of the recipient is not available, on the top left side of your letter, the charge nurse. Next line, Prince Henry Rehabilitation Center. Next line, Malabar Bay. These are the details of my recipient and they would be on the top left side of my letter. The second thing that we are trying to find here is what's the purpose of writing the letter? And my question would now be for, okay, Alfonsa, is the purpose mentioned in the writing task?
Not mentioned, ma'am.
No, it's not mentioned. Are you sure? It
Where
is
he will be stayed after the discharge.
for
She will be stayed in.
rehabilitation.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So the patient is being transferred to the recipient's facility for rehabilitation after discharge. And rehabilitation is the recovery period. And if the patient is having rehabilitation at the recipient's facility, what type of care would you request for this patient?
Rehabilitation.
Rehabilitative care, which means regaining care that is provided to the patients for regaining of the health back to normal. So, yes, the recipient's details and the purpose both are very clearly mentioned in the writing task. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No. Now, apart from this, the details of the sender are also mentioned. If you are a nurse, you would sign off as a charge nurse from a neurological ward. And if you're a doctor, you'll sign off as a doctor on the neurological ward. Both which, it is according to the job role that you have. So we have the recipient, sender, and the purpose. Let's read the case notes from the beginning to find out why does the patient need rehabilitation from what kind of a condition. Patient's name, AMIR AKBARI. Mr., Miss, Mrs.?
Mr. Ma'am.
Why
Mr.
Mr.? Do we have the information about his gender?
Ma'am, we can assume.
Yes, ma'am, in writing task.
But they talk
No, in the writing task they have not. They've used AMIR AKBARI. They've not used. Oh, yes. His
He will
hospital.
Yes, ma'am, he will be,
Yeah.
He
He
will
will
be
be
transferred.
transferred and his
he
hospital.
will be transferred.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
most of
you're
them.
right.
Ma'am, in social history also.
Social history. Let's go to
His
social.
wife and kids.
His wife and
Yeah,
kids.
if wife is mentioned, yeah, that indicates that he's a male. Okay. Right. So yes, our patient is a male. So since our patient, is somebody calling me? No? Okay. So if we are writing about an adult male patient, what's the title that we're going to use for them?
Mr. Ma'am.
Mr. Amir
Mr.
Akbari. Very
Ma'am.
good. So Mr. Amir Akbari is 41 years old. He is married. He is a Muslim by religion and is an Iranian. I mean, his background, he has come from Iran. Admission date, he got admitted into Prince Charles Hospital in Rondwick on 6th of March 2011 and the discharge is on 22nd April 2011. So the patient already stayed in the hospital for a very long period, for 1.5 months. But still, he requires help for recovery. That's the reason he's being sent to the rehabilitation center because he cannot be kept in the hospital any longer. Diagnosis, Guillain-Barré syndrome. Whoever knows what this condition is can raise their hand. What is Guillain-Barré syndrome? Yes, Aman?
I'm a condition in which the immune system attacks the nerves.
Right. So it is, yeah, it is absolutely that, in which the immunity system weakens and it attacks the nervous system. And usually, many functions of the body are impaired because of it. So that is what our patient came for in the hospital. Family and psychosocial history. He lives in a rented house with his wife, who is also an Iranian, and 2 kids. The age of the kids is 3 and 4 years. Both of them are PhD students. Why do I say both of them? Because they've written students. And who would be the PhD students? The children or the husband and the wife?
Husband and wife.
Husband and wife. Because PhD usually requires a certain age, although these days children have become so sharp that I believe that they can do PhD at the age of 3 and 4 as well. But yeah, in this case, it is indicative that Mr. Akbari and his wife are PhD students. Both of them speak good English, but they have downward arrow support. What is downward arrow in the case notes for?
Decreased.
Decrease, ma'am. Decrease support.
Decreased support, which means they do not have much support. They have little support in Australia. The children go to the childcare services in the university. So we all know childcare services, playpen as we have in our country. So there you have childcare services and the children go there 2 by 7. What is 2 by 7 indicative of?
2 days in a week.
2
Not
days
in a
in
week.
the
Yeah, for 2 days. Now, for this, we have to go to this table that I always share. How many days are there in a week? There are 7. So
7
anything by 7 would mean, for example, the number of days, not number of days in a week. So 2 by 7 would be 2 days, not 2 days in a week. Okay. Similarly, let's say it is 3 by 54. How many weeks in a year?
52 weeks.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. 52. It would not be 54. 52. So number of weeks is for 3 by 52. So if it is 3 by 52, that would mean 3 weeks, not 3 weeks in a year. Similarly, if there is something by 24,
Hours.
yeah, not number of hours in a day, but this would be 4 hours.
Hours.
And finally, how many months?
12.
Yeah.
12.
these are very commonly used in your case notes, and I think you should be familiar with them because they're not going to give you the full form for these in the examination. Okay, let's go back to the case notes. So the children go to the childcare facility in the university for 2 days, and there are nil extra days available at the center. So the parents, since they're so occupied, they are taking care of the children, they are studying. So they would want the children to go to the childcare services every day. But the childcare services does not have availability. So the children go to the childcare services for only 2 days. The patient was working at a service station for 3 days. What's a service station? Like in our country, we have petrol pumps, no? In the West, they call it service stations. So people can get fuel as well as get the car, minor repairing of the car done at the service station. So our patient was working at the service station before his hospitalization. Patient has PTSD. What's PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Post-traumatic stress disorder issues. 2-degree war. What is 2-degree for?
Second.
Secondary to, which means due to. So our patient has PTSD issues, post-traumatic stress disorder issues, due to a trauma which he experienced in the mid-80s. So if you know a little about the history of Iran, you would know that Iran has had a very long history of wars, civil wars as well as external wars. And in the mid-80s, the situation was quite severe. So in the mid-1980s, he must have been witness to any war that he must have seen. So because of that trauma, he's prone to depression and anxiety because he has had post-traumatic stress disorder. Have a look at the family and psychosocial details, and if there be any questions, you can please ask me. Read them again to yourself, and for questions, you can ask.
Ma'am, children in university childcare
Mhm.
2/7 and next till nil extra days available at center at present means
Now, because both of them are PhD students, the husband and the wife, it seems that they live in the university campus itself where they're doing the PhD. So every area has a childcare, no, a playpen or a childcare where children can be left while the parents are busy. So childcare is that. So the children of our patient go to this childcare services for 2 days only because there are no other days available for the children, or the childcare services are busy. They cannot take the children for more than 2 days, which means it is a little difficult situation for them to handle both the children as well as provide care.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in the family history, could you please explain the last point?
PTSD. So
Yes,
our
ma'am.
patient has had post-traumatic stress disorder because of a trauma that he experienced in the mid 1980s.
Okay.
And he must have witnessed a war in which he must have seen killing happening. So that could have left a scar on him, and that's the reason he has this post-traumatic stress disorder. What is this condition? This condition develops in people who witness some kind of trauma from which they are not able to recover completely. Usually, this happens, you must have heard, some people whose close family members or friends die and they become very prone to depression or very prone to any kind of mental trauma. So that is PTSD, and our patient has it because he witnessed a war trauma, and he has that trauma since the 1980s.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any question? No? Okay. Then we go to the next page. Medical history and medications. Otherwise, he's been physically healthy prior to the onset of Guillain-Barré syndrome. The medication information to be forwarded by doctor. Which doctor is going to forward the information to whom? Is the information to be forwarded to the recipient?
By
No,
neurologist.
because
Ma'am, you
this,
will doctor.
because this information is for the case notes, not for the letter that you're writing, which means the general practitioner of the patient was to send the information about the general health of the patient, about the history of the patient to you. That is the sender of this letter who's writing the case notes. This is not for the reader. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay. Then let's see what did you do in the care for the care of the patient, management and progress during hospitalization. He had rapid deterioration of his condition, but there was recovery. He needed ventilation in ICU for 3 days, beginning from March 20th till 22nd March. And when the GBS was at the worst stage, that is at the peak of GBS, he was not able to move his limbs, that is the arms and the legs, independently. Now he has reduced muscle tone and muscle strength, and he does need little assistance with activities of daily living, but he can walk slowly with a walking frame. He went for regular plasmapheresis and had a total of 5 days worth of IV gamma globulin. This plasmapheresis and gamma globulin, these are related to the treatment of GBS. I would not go into the details. He received daily physiotherapy program, including self-exercises, but now he's becoming depressed about his prospects. Prospects is future. His wife is not able to cope with the financial, study, as well as childcare pressures because he was earning, they were both studying, and they have 2 children. So she alone is not able to handle all of this. Have a look at the management plan questions. No. So we want the receipt. Okay, let's see the discharge plan. First, continue
Ma'am?
physiotherapy. Yeah.
And in this GBS means
Guillain-Barré
Guillain-
syndrome,
okay, ma'am. Okay.
the diagnosis of the patient. Discharge plan says continue physiotherapy program and encourage the patient to do his own limb exercises as well. Discuss with your team regarding. RE in the case notes is always for regarding. Question mark in the case notes is always for possibility. So discuss with your team regarding the possible need of a psychiatric assessment for the possible depression of a patient. Ensure your social worker, S/W is for social worker, is aware of the family and wife's pressures and provides follow-up. Our patient takes a halal diet. Patient's oxygenation is very stable on room air. R/A is for room air. Now, but our patient will need observation of any decrease in respiratory status and increase in neurological signs. I know there are many symbols and short forms used here. That's the reason I have this document that I'm sharing in all your groups. Please, oh, somebody's message opened up just a second. Yeah, please check your WhatsApp. There is a list of commonly used acronyms, abbreviations, and symbols that you find in case notes, because for many of them, they might not give the full form, although for most of them, they usually do. But if they don't give it for any of them, you should be prepared for it. So I've shared that document in your groups. Just check if you have received it. You don't have to go through it at the moment because I have given you the full form of all of these. Look at the discharge plan, read it now again to yourself with the full forms that I've given you, and then we'll discuss.
Yes, ma'am. Received it.
Yep, okay. All right. Now, let's identify what would be our request for the reader. What would we want our reader to do? First of all, continue physiotherapy program and encourage patient to do his own limb exercises too. Will this be a part of the job role of a charge nurse who works at a rehabilitation center? Drop your phones, everyone. We're not looking at the phones anymore. Let's go to the discharge plan. Continue physio program and encourage the patient to do his own limb exercises. Will this be a request for the reader?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because although the recipient is not going to do the physiotherapy program, it is a part of the rehabilitation program that a patient requires. So yes, very much a request. Move on to the next point. Discussion with your team regarding the need of a psychiatric assessment. Whose team are they talking about?
Rehabilitative.
Rehabilitation team.
The team of the recipient again. So will we ask our recipient to discuss with her team or his team regarding the need of the psychiatric assessment for the possible depression?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, so that would also become our request. The next point, ensure your social worker is aware. Who's social worker?
The recipient facilities.
Recipient
Again, a
facility.
social worker at the recipient's facility. So can we request our reader to ensure this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Halal diet. The patient takes a halal diet. Is this a request?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Piece of information.
Yeah, this would not be a request. This will inform. Patient's oxygenation is stable, but observe for any reduction in respiratory status and increase in neurological signs. Will our recipient observe this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Request.
So we have these 4 requests for our reader, and via all these requests for a nurse, because the patient is going to stay in the recipient's facility, and the charge nurse is going to ensure that all the care that the patient requires is provided to them. So she's not herself going to do the physiotherapy program. She will ensure that it is continued. She will not herself do the psychiatric assessment. She would check with her team if there is any need for it and then get it done. She would not herself look after the social situation of the family. She would ensure that the social worker in her team is aware of it and provides care. And finally, she herself will observe for any reduced signs of respiratory and neurological. Have a look at the whole set of case notes. If there's anything that's not clear, you can ask me. And if everything is clear, you can let me know so that we can move ahead. I would consider the silence to be no questions. Then you know what needs to be done. You'll all now have 3 minutes of time, keeping in mind who the recipient is, what is the purpose, what are the requests, and what is the current condition of the patient. You will mark the relevant information. And if there be any confusion about it, then you can always ask yourself the guiding question. Does my recipient need this piece of information to provide care to the patient? If yes, it is relevant. If no, it's not relevant. Your 3 minutes to mark the information begin now.
Ma'am, uh,
Yes, please.
in In discharge plan, why diet is not relevant information?
I did not say diet is not relevant. I asked you to decide yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. It is not a request for the reader. It can be relevant, but not a request. Who joined with the device My PC? I need your name, please.
Rajvinder ma'am.
Raj. No. Somebody's joined from My PC, Rajvinder.
Yes, ma'am. Saravjeet, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Sarvjit. Noted, sir. Thank you. Entered Mohali.
Ma'am, here is network issue.
Network issue is there. Okay, I'll check with
Yes.
Sonam on how long will it take. Have you all joined with your devices?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, everyone, let's stop. The time is up. Okay. Have you all marked the relevant information? Hello? No, you're still marking? I'll
Yes.
give you 1 moment. Okay, 1 moment, quickly. All right, now the 1 minute is also up. Have you all marked the information? Yes, no? Yes, you should have. Yeah? Okay. All right, let's discuss then. From the writing task, the sender's details can also be picked up, that a charge nurse or a doctor is writing the letter, whichever way you want to write. I mean, whoever is writing the letter. And then from the recipient's details, the sender's, I mean, the complete details of the recipient, as well as the information about the purpose that the patient is being transferred to your facility for rehabilitative care. Okay, now let's see from the beginning, what did you consider to be relevant and why, what not and why. We start with Anandita. Anandita, from the notes till the, okay, diagnosis, from the patient's name till the diagnosis, what's relevant and why, what not and why.
Ma'am, patient name,
Mm-hmm.
age,
Uh-huh.
ma'am, admission date 6 March
Okay.
2011, discharge date,
Uh-huh.
and diagnosis.
Right. I agree with all of this. Why is his marital status in his religion not relevant?
Ma'am, because it is necessary for the recipient, ma'am. Admission date, discharge, diagnosis, and details of patient.
Absolutely. It's got nothing to do with the recovery of the patient, the rehabilitation of the patient. Hence, it's irrelevant. The name and age will be in the subject line so that the identification of the patient becomes easier, and the admission date and discharge date are relevant so that the recipient knows for how long the patient has had this condition. And the discharge date is also your date of writing, as you don't have any other date mentioned in the case notes, and also the date of discharge and transfer to the recipient's facility. The diagnosis is relevant because this is the reason why the rehabilitative care is required, so it becomes very necessary for the reader. Okay,
Ma'am,
thank you.
ma'am,
Yes, Raman.
religion and ethnicity is not important.
Why would that be important?
I think they mentioned the secondary trauma,
The trauma has
PTSD.
got nothing to do. It is not that he was in Iran, that's the reason he had the trauma. If he would have been
Okay.
in any country and if he would have been exposed to war, he would have had that
Mhm.
trauma. So that's the reason
Okay.
it's not important.
Okay. ठीक
Yeah.
है.
And the religion is not important with, uh, I mean, the religion is not important as it has got nothing to do with what care the patient is going to receive. So it's irrelevant.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, but halal diet is mentioned in paragraph.
Yeah, ma'am.
Many
Halal
non-Muslims
diet,
also take a
social
halal
worker.
diet. Many non-Muslims also take a halal diet. And also, it's not important that we mention that he's a Muslim, so he needs a halal diet. Simply his requirement that he needs a halal diet would also get him the halal diet.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. I have one question more.
Yeah.
In social worker point management, the social worker point is mentioned. So they are requested in management, I think so. So that's
I
why
could
I
not get
think
your
so.
question, Raman. Could you reframe it for me?
Ma'am, in management, no. In discharge plan, they requested for the social worker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, ensure aware family and wife special provided follow-ups. So I think so. Maybe they suffer from the PTSD, so she can provide proper mental stability. Like
So what is relevant from, what has that got to do with the religion and ethnicity?
no, ma'am. I just have a question. If this is important or not.
We'll go there. We'll go to that point by point. We've just looked at the first part. We'll go there and then
Okay.
we'll identify whether that's relevant or not relevant.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. But for now, it is a request for the reader. So this point, ensure your social worker is aware. This is very relevant.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to family and psychosocial details and let's identify the relevant information here. Gautam, can you help us? Gautam, are you there? No. Kachi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Kachi, from family and psychosocial details, what's relevant and why, what not and why?
That the patients were PhD students
Mm-hmm.
and decreased support network,
Mm-hmm.
and the patient has PTSD.
Okay. Do we not have to give the information about the children because the wife is having issues related to childcare as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So he lives with his wife. Rented house has got nothing to do with the reader because they already have a house. So he lives with his wife, and they have two children. This is important because we want the recipient of the letter to ensure that the social worker is aware of the social situation. So we do have to give the information about about this. PhD students very relevant because the wife has study pressures as well. Low network in Australia, that's the reason social worker is being requested to provide that support. And PTSD issues due to war trauma, this is also very relevant because that's the reason psychiatric assessment needs to be done. They have not mentioned any financial, issues that the family has. Sorry, the wife is not able to cope with the financial issues. But for the last 1.5 months, the patient is not even working at the gas station, the service station. So that's the reason the information about the service station is not relevant for the reader. And children in university childcare for 2 days available at present. Yes, these are related to childcare, but we won't go into the details. Why? Because our purpose is to request rehabilitative care. We are just informing our reader about the social situation so that the social worker can follow up with this family. All the details are not to be communicated through our letter. Our letter is only to request the social worker's involvement, and this information about the social situation is enough to ensure that involvement. If there be any questions, you can keep them. I'll take them at the end. Sadiq, before you sleep off, medical history, nothing is there, so not relevant. Sadiq, management in progress. What's relevant and why, what not and why? Go ahead.
Rapid deterioration and recovery.
Uh-huh.
And BBS could not move limbs independently. And he needs assistant with ADL, but cannot walk slowly, but can walk slowly with walking frames.
Uh-huh.
Okay, ma'am. And now, the daily physio program includes self-exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And a wife not coping with financial studies and financially study and child care pressure.
Uh-huh.
And last one.
Yeah, right. The gamma globulin and plasmapheresis is not relevant as there is no request for the reader related to it. And ventilation information, if you want, you may include. I would leave that up to you. Ventilation for 3 days because you want the respiratory status to be checked. And since the patient was on ventilation, you may include it. But it is understood that if the GBS be very severe, ventilation is provided, so you may skip that as well. But yeah, all of this is relevant. Very good. Thank you, Sadiq. We go to the discharge plan and okay, Salman, anything that's not relevant from the discharge plan?
Ma'am, everything is relevant in the discharge plan.
Yeah, everything is relevant because all of these are requests for my reader and halal diet, although it's not relevant, it's not a request, it is relevant because at the recipient's facility, the recipient will have to arrange for halal diet for our patient. Very good. Please have a look at the whole set and if there be any questions, you can ask me.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, why the PhD students are relevant?
Because the wife is not able to handle the childcare pressures as well, no?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
in the management, why the hospital background is relevant?
The management wise, the hospital background, where is that?
Right. Yeah, right. ICU care and everything. Is it relevant?
The ventilation is relevant because you want the recipient to check the respiratory status of the patient. The rapid deterioration, recovery, and not being able to move the limbs is important to highlight the severity of the condition of the patient. The current
Yes.
mobility is relevant because this is the condition in which the patient is being sent to the recipient's facility. Daily physio is relevant because that needs to be continued after the discharge. The depression is relevant because this is the reason the assessment is required. Wife not coping with financial, study, and childcare pressures is not relevant because this is the reason the social worker needs to be aware of the situation.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else, any questions?
No questions, ma'am.
No? Okay. If there be no more questions, then you know what is going to be my question. That is the organization. I'll display. Give me 1 second. Are you able to see my screen? It's just not shared. No. You won't be able to. Give me 1 second. Yeah. I have displayed the table on your screen. I'll give all of you 2 minutes of time. Please don't do the calculation in your mind. Please put it on paper. Try all 3 organizations and then choose the best one for this case. And your 2 minutes begin now. I'm stopping the share for a minute. It shows some error. Just 1 second. I'll show you. Time up. I'll give you 1 more minute because I stopped the share. My bad. Okay, now I'll display the sheet. You can have a look at it. Yeah, here it is. I think we should discuss the organization if we have had enough time. Shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes.
All right. Which organization do you consider most suitable here?
Problem solution, ma'am.
Problem solution.
Problem
Problem
solution.
solution. Okay. All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Anyone for hierarchical?
No, ma'am.
Anyone for chronological?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. We'll discuss problem solution. Why
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
think we'll use problem solution in this case? What's the reason?
Ma'am, there are
We have multiple
requests.
Yeah, we have multiple requests, and also we are writing about multiple situations of the patient. One is related to the Guillain-Barré syndrome in the physical health, another is related to the mental health, and there's one that's related to the social health. So yeah, we are writing about multiple requests as well as multiple situations. So yes, problem solution can be very much used here. Although all of you have, I mean, problem solution is absolutely fine and is the best for writing this letter. Chronological can also be used because in this case, the past is related to present. The social history as well as the history of depression are very much related to the current request that you have for the reader. So you may choose chronological as well. But if you have to choose any one out of the two, I would suggest that you go with problem solution, and I'll tell you why when we make the rough draft. Okay, so if we make the rough draft for chronological, you would first write the introduction. Then you would write the medical and social history.
social history
And then you would write whatever happened
during
in the
hospital.
hospital. And finally, you would write the
Following
requests. Yeah. Now, what would happen in this case? In the introduction, you are writing to request for rehabilitative care for Guillain-Barré syndrome. And in the next paragraph, you're writing the medical history that's related to depression and social history that's related to the family and not related to Guillain-Barré syndrome. The recipient would be confused. The recipient would not be able to identify why am I being given the information about social and medical history if the purpose is to request rehabilitation for Guillain-Barré syndrome. That's the reason, in comparison to chronological, it's better that we write problem solution, the one that you people have chosen. First, the introduction. Then, how many situations are you writing about?
3.
Three. What was number one? Go ahead. What was
Psychology.
number one?
Teach a program and encourage patient to do his
Right.
or
One,
exercise.
we'll write about the GBS, everything that's related to GBS and the physical abilities. Then
We have assessment for depression. That's right.
yeah, we write about his mental health because it is related to his condition. And then we write about the social condition. Why social condition at the end? Because the social condition is not only his problem, it's the family's problem too. And since the referral is of the patient, so primarily the patient's problem need to be written first and then the other problems. So yeah, these are the 3 paragraphs that we can make. Any questions here?
Ma'am, can we add observation for oxygenation?
Sorry?
Ma'am, can we write observation for oxygenation, ma'am?
That could be related to GBS, no? So we'll put it in the GBS paragraph, Salman. So everything that's related to GBS we'll consider to be number one. Everything related to mental health as number two, and everything related to social condition as number three. And we'll go back to our case notes and number the case notes accordingly. Okay. We start with the discharge plan. Continue physio program. Is it related to GBS?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this would be number. Oh, let me choose another color. Yeah. So this would be number one. Discussion regarding psychiatric assessment. Is it related to GBS?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Family.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Oxygenation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This
GBS
would also be number
is
one.
related to GBS, ma'am.
Then we go to management. Rapid deterioration and recovery.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ventilation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Peak of GBS.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Current mobility.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And daily physio.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Depression about prospects.
No,
No.
ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Wife not coping.
No, ma'am.
Then we go to family and psychosocial details. Lives with wife and two children.
No, ma'am.
no, ma'am.
PhD students.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Support network in Australia.
No.
No. No, ma'am.
PTSD issue.
No, ma'am.
No. So which means that only the information that is there in hospitalization and discharge corresponds to number one. Now, number two is about the mental health. So let's mark everything related to number two. Discussion with your team regarding psychiatric assessment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Wife, social worker.
No.
No.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Somebody's there. Oh. Yeah, management in progress. So now becoming depressed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Wife not coping.
No.
No, ma'am.
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
not related to
No, ma'am.
depression. We're talking about the mental health. Lives with wife and two children.
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am. No,
PhD
ma'am.
students, low support in
No,
Australia.
ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
PTSD issue.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So everything is number two will be the second paragraph after the introduction. And now number three. Ensure social worker
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
takes a halal diet.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, here itself. Because that's a preference. That's not a health requirement. Wife not coping.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And finally, social details. All of them. Iranian wife and two
Yes,
children,
ma'am.
PhD students, and little support in Australia.
Decrease.
Now, in this case, you would see how have we numbered the paragraphs? We have decided the different topics of each paragraph, and then everything related to that topic we've included in that paragraph, be it the history, be it the current condition, be it the request. We have not separated the topics through time. We have separated the topics through the different situations of the patient. Which means that in problem solution organization, we are not making a separate paragraph for request. That request thing that we usually do, that will not be there. Why? Because all the multiple requests that we have made them in the corresponding paragraphs where we are writing about that topic. Every request related to GBS in the paragraph of GBS, everything that is related to the mental health, the request in that paragraph, and everything related to social condition in the social condition. Do I make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So there would not be a separate request paragraph in OET writing as far as problem solution organization is concerned. Do I make sense here?
Yes.
Okay. Shall we try writing the letter together?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
By together, I mean together. It does not mean that I will write it, okay? I won't write any word that you don't suggest. So you will have to guide me. You can all keep your pens and pencils away. because we'll be together writing the letter. In this introduction, how many questions do we answer?
5, ma'am.
Five. Number one,
Who is the patient?
Name.
I'll give the answer. It's Mr. Amir Akbari, or since he's an adult, Mr. Akbari. Second, what's the purpose?
Purpose, ma'am. Rehabilitative.
Care.
Third, why does he need this rehabilitative care? Sorry, when and why was he admitted?
Yes,
Sorry,
ma'am.
my bad. When and why was he
6 March,
admitted?
6 March 2011
March 2011.
with gluten berry syndrome.
Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Gluteal?
Bullion.
And Guillain-Barré will have the first letters in capitals as it's a condition named after somebody. What is the current condition of the patient?
Recovering.
Easy. Do we have the information about the recovery?
Yes, ma'am. Rapid duration and recovery.
Yeah, and also we have the information. The mobility has now improved. No, he does not need complete assistance. So, okay, you can directly write he was admitted on 6th, was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, from which he is now recovering. And when is the discharge?
Today.
Yeah, and also he's being transferred, no? So you can directly write he's being transferred to your care or facility today. So we have answered these 5 questions so that we can get an idea about how the introduction was to be written. Because in the introduction, our aim is to mention the purpose and to establish it. Let's join these answers. Help me complete it. Okay, let's say I start with, I am writing about, or to refer, or I can also start with to transfer.
Regarding.
To request.
If I write to transfer, then at the end I will write, he's being discharged today. I would not repeat the information about the transfer. I'm writing regarding is also fine. Somebody mentioned that. Yeah. So I'm writing about, to refer, to transfer, regarding, any of these can be used. Mr. Akbari or Mr. Amir Akbari. After that, what should I write?
Who requires rehabilitative care?
Okay. Who requires rehabilitative care
As
As he was
admitted
as he was admitted on 6th
and was
diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, from which he is
he
recovering.
is recovering and is
Then,
being
discharged today.
no, let's not make that lengthy a sentence. It could be confusing. Let's separate it. He is being transferred to your care or your facility
Today.
Have we written anything that is complex or complicated here?
No, ma'am. He is discharged to your care.
He's being
Discharged.
discharged to your care is also fine.
Okay, ma'am.
If you're writing, I'm writing to transfer in the beginning, then you can here write he's being discharged to your care today. That is also okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any questions about the introduction?
Ma'am.
For all those who are copying is not going to help. I'll upload this. I'll upload the sample letters as well. Understanding is more important. So let's focus on that. I write so that you don't have to write. So that you can focus on the understanding. Otherwise, I can dictate and you can write. That can also be done. No? So don't write. Learn. That is more important. Okay, next paragraph. What is that about?
GBS.
GBS. How do we start that paragraph?
During hospitalization.
What's the first thing that you're going to write about GBS?
Ma'am, deterioration.
Yeah, the
Rapid
yeah. So
recovery.
you can write either you can write at the peak of GBS because that is the rapid deterioration. Either you can start like this. At the peak of the condition, he had rapid recovery. No, he had rapid deterioration.
Deterioration.
Deterioration. Rapid deterioration and could not
Good.
move his limbs independently. Okay, is this fine? So we've
Yes, ma'am.
mentioned what was the problem at the peak of GBS. Because recovering, we've already mentioned in the introduction, so we don't have to repeat. What else was done? So what was done or what did we do?
Ventilation in ICU.
Yeah.
He is on ventilation.
He is on now. Is he on ventilation?
No, ma'am. He was.
He was on.
He was on ventilation for 3
Three.
days. And what other treatment did you provide apart from ventilation?
Assistance, ma'am.
No. What treatment did you provide? Daily?
Physiotherapy.
Yeah. So we've written the problem first, no? That he had rapid deterioration and could not move his limbs. He was on ventilation for 3 days. Additionally, he performed physiotherapy. No, not performed. He received physiotherapy and performed
Exercises.
Self-exercise.
Daily. Was this the treatment? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the current condition?
Ma'am, decreased muscle tone and strength.
Now, so what did we do? We started from the past, the problems first. Then we wrote the solution that we provided. Then we are going to write the result of that solution. That is the current condition. Now, Mr. Akbari is able to. What's the current condition?
Walk.
Okay, Mohali is here. Mohali, all students in Mohali, switch off your phones. Yeah. Now, what is the current condition of Mr. Akbari's mobility?
Able to walk, ma'am.
He is able to walk slowly
Is
with the
able
walking
to
frame.
walk slowly
With the help of walking frame.
with the help of
Walking frame.
Have they mentioned in the case notes he is able to walk? Then we'll reframe. We'll write mobilize. With the assistance, we can write if help is mentioned in the case notes. Try to paraphrase as much as you can. Use synonyms so that you're able to. For all those who are copying, I would again repeat. You don't have to copy. I'll upload this as well as all the samples. Let's learn how to write it. So we have written the past first, then the present. So what's the future?
You are requested.
No, it's not a request for the reader, no? Physiotherapy.
His physio program should be continued.
Yeah. Following his transfer, continue physiotherapy program. And what is the request?
And you are requested to encourage.
And kindly encourage, because you are requested to better begin the sentence.
Okay, ma'am.
Kindly encourage him to perform what?
Limb this. On
Which exercise?
Limb exercises.
Exercise.
Okay. Anything else that needs to be done in the future related to GBS?
No.
One more thing. Ventilation. What is required for that?
Oxygenation.
Yes.
Monitoring of respiration and
Observe for any decrease in respiratory status or increase in
We have two contradictory informations, no? One, we are saying that he's okay. Second, we are still requesting something. So we can use a complex sentence. Although his oxygen oxygen or
level,
oxygenation? What is it? What is mentioned?
Oxygenation.
no, oxygen
Oxygenation
level.
is normal at room
Room
air. He still needs monitoring or observation of what?
For any decrease in respiratory status.
For any changes, we can directly write in respiratory or and
Neurological.
neurological symptoms. Rather than writing increase, decrease, we can simply write any changes in respiratory or neurological symptoms would need monitoring. So let's talk about the formation of this paragraph because that is something problematic for all of you. First, if you see, we have written the problem of the patient. Then we have written about the solution that we provided in the past. Solution in the past. Then we have written about the current condition of the patient in the now paragraph. And then we have written what the recipient needs to do in the future. So always in problem solution organization, the problem will be written first and the solution will be written later. Do I make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. Now you are going to help me with the next paragraph. I am not going to provide any assistance. What is the next paragraph about?
Mental or psychological
The
condition.
depression. So what will be the signposting? How should you begin a paragraph when you're writing about the mental health of the patient?
Firstly, second.
Mentally.
In context of mental history.
Not history, but yeah, health in context of his mental health. Don't write mentally, it's a little derogatory. So don't. Yeah, in context of his mental health. What are you going to
Can we
first
write
write?
psychological health?
Yes, you may. That is also fine.
Okay.
And the pronunciation again. Psychological.
Psychological.
And when you say it as a subject, then it's psychology, but not psychological. Psychological, it has stress on all of it. Okay, come, let's come back to writing. In context of his mental or psychological health, what will you write? First, identify the problem first.
Ma'am, PTSD.
PTSD.
Depression.
He has PTSD issues.
He has PTSD issue now only.
He had.
He had in the past only.
Has had. He has had.
Right.
Mr.
Mr.
Akbari
Akbari has had.
Has had.
had
Can I write PTSD in my letter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a
Yes,
globally
ma'am.
acceptable
Yes, ma'am.
acronym?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
And does my recipient understand it?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, because
Yes.
It
ma'am.
was already
Medical record.
neurologist.
Right, because the recipient is a nurse, not neurologist.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh,
So
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Akbari has had PTSD. Then
Yes. 2 episode of trauma.
no, due to a trauma when
In mid-80s.
in mid 1980s. Then, or you can also write mid 80s. That is also good. Then,
Which make him prone to depression and anxiety.
which made him now?
Which made him?
Made
Yeah.
him.
Very good. Prone. Can we have a synonym for prone?
Susceptible.
Susceptible.
To depression. Okay. This is the first problem. Any current problem?
Yes, ma'am. He's becoming depressed about his future, like
Prospects. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Given his current situation, he is
Becoming depressed.
becoming depressed about his future or prospects, whichever way. So what do you need?
Discuss with the team.
How do we write it in a sentence? Kindly we've already used in the previous sentence.
Please note.
You are requested.
Yeah, you are requested. Now we are beginning a sentence, so we can use. And since it is because of the Mohali, you are now in the class, so you can stop talking, please.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know you are a little confused whether you're there in the class or not. Now you are, so let's not talk. Since this is the reason we are requesting, we can also write therefore. It's a connector that's used to give reason. Therefore, you are requested.
You are
To do what?
to discuss with your team.
To discuss with your team.
The need for.
To discuss with your team if there be a need for
Psychological assessment.
For depression.
Psychological. In this case, they've just written psychological. So even if you write psychiatric or psychological, both would be correct.
Yes, ma'am.
I've written physiological, something like that. Give me a minute. Yeah. Psychological or psychiatric assessment. You are requested to discuss with your team if there be a need for psychological or psychiatric assessment, or you need to discuss with your team the need for a possible, because in the previous one I've already used if. So if you want to use possible for a possible
Rolf.
psychological or psychiatric again. Any which ways you can write. Anything else that's related to the psychological health of the patient?
No.
No, have we included everything?
Yes.
So
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
if you see, this is the... Sorry?
Psychiatric assessment for depression.
You may write, yes, okay, that can also be done on for depression. Or for his depression, whichever way. Now, if you see, you wrote this paragraph, and how did you write it? Again, the same thing. The past problem, then the current problem, and then the solution. So in problem solution, always the problem first, then the solution. And if you have multiple problems, the first problem first, I mean, as far as time is concerned, then the latest problem, and then the solution. All right, similarly, let's go to the social situation. How will you signpost the paragraphs?
Socially.
In the
Pronunciation. Socially, not socially. The
Socially.
first sound is S. The second sound is sh. Socially.
Socially.
Okay, socially what?
He lives with
He
He
lives
lives
with his
with
wife
Socially
and
is socially
with his wife and two
Two
children.
kids. Children.
and
kids is
two children,
informal. So we'll write children
aged
aged
3, 4.
3 and 4. Okay, then
they both worked as PhD students.
they both are. They don't work as. PhD is a study, not employment. So they both.
They both
They in this case
are
we are writing the husband and wife and children as well. So to specify, both Mr. Akbari and his wife
And his wife.
are.
PhD students.
PhD
Or
student.
PhD students.
Please be very careful about the PhD. Which one is capital, which one is small, you need to be aware. Okay. What else?
Decreased sport.
I need a
Sport
sentence.
His he's a sport of
They
Moreover,
Sport networking. They have it.
They have
they have
they
what?
have
they have
Decreased
decreased.
decreased
yeah,
sport networks in Australia.
They have rather
they
than
have
decreased little support.
little sport.
Or okay, they do not have much, whichever
What
way you
in
want to write. It can be a negative as well as a positive sentence. So they do not have much social support.
In
Are they in
Australia.
Australia?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, then we can write. I did not check the country. Okay, so this is the issue in the past. What is the current issue?
wife not coping.
wife?
His
His wife is not coping.
Currently,
his
his
wife
wife
is not
Is not
coping
is
Is
unable to cope.
unable to cope with
Unable.
financial
financial,
finance
study, and childcare pressure.
study and childcare pressures.
and childcare.
Okay. Oh, pressures. Okay, so what do you want?
I mean, we can only write childcare also. His
She's
wife
not
Ensure social
wife is
financial
unable
what?
to cope.
Because financial is an adverb, so we need to have a noun. Financial situation, study, and childcare is okay. But or you can write financial pressures, study, and childcare if you don't want to write any noun after. Because childcare and study can be written without pressures, but financial cannot be. Okay, yeah. What do you want?
Please
Ma'am,
ensure
it would be highly
your social worker.
Consequently, I would add because this is the reason.
Ensure.
What do you please ensure?
Yes, ma'am. Please ensure.
That
Please ensure that
your
social worker
That your social
and if you don't want to write your social worker, so you can also write ensure that social worker at your facility
facility is aware of family and wife's pressure.
is aware
Aware
of their
family.
situation.
and provide follow.
Is aware and Is aware and provides, because social worker is singular, no? So is aware and provides follow-up to this
Family.
1 point left. That's the piece of
Halal diet.
information.
halal diet.
And as we discussed last week itself,
Please
that
note.
such pieces of as we discussed last week, such pieces of information can be irrelevant in some countries, but we know that they're quite important. So we consider them to be semi-relevant as they're culturally important, but not important for the care. So we will put it towards the end of our letter. So please note, Mr. Akbari
Halal diet.
takes halal
Halal
diet.
diet. Excuse me, ma'am.
Just a second. And then what do we add at the end?
Please contact with any question.
With
Oh, I'll
questions.
have a lesson on layout next week because you people have started making many errors in layout. Most of you are not writing the closing statement itself. This morning also I assessed 2 letters and they did not have the closing statement. It's very important. Please don't skip it. Yeah, somebody wanted to be excused. You're now excused. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, can I write this social worker at your facility need to aware of
Needs to
their
be aware.
situation?
Passive voice, so needs
Yes,
to
ma'am.
be aware.
Needs
It's fine.
needs to be aware.
Yeah, that's fine. You can, Mindy. Anybody else? Anything else?
No.
No? Let's see the construction of this paragraph as well, the last one that we have written. First, we have written about, again, the problems in the past.
Problem.
Then we have written about the present problems.
Current.
And then we have written about the solution that is required.
Solution.
And towards the end, we have included the semi-relevant piece of information. Makes sense. Any questions about construction of paragraphs? Because that is problematic for some of us. Any problems that you think would be there?
No.
No. Any questions related to this letter?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. Will you be able to write to request rehabilitative care for the patient if you're asked to in the examination?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I trust you on that. Also, I have not been able to see all the results, but some of the messages that are popping in, February 9th, 10th, February 10th results, our students are doing quite great. I have not been able to see all of them, but the messages that I'm seeing in the pop box, they are showing that the results are quite good. So yeah, I'm happy and I'm hopeful that we get similar results from you as well. No, Aman, there's a lot of difference between non-vegetarian diet and halal diet. Halal is a way in which the meat is cut, be it the chicken or be it the goat that is being cut. It is the form in which it is cut. So there's a lot of difference between the two. So no, you cannot write non-vegetarian instead of halal. Any other question, anybody? Mohali, you missed a lot of the class. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No. No questions at all? Okay. If there be no questions, no, somebody said, okay, no questions. You're talking amongst yourself only. If there be no questions, that would be all for the class. I'll still wait for 2-3 minutes if there be anything that you would want to ask. But if you have something to do, you can leave. I'm not going to do anything new in the next 10 minutes that I have. Oh, nice. Yeah, the results are good. Very nice. Yeah, they are good. So I'm expecting something similar from you people as well whenever you take the test. Vishal is sending question marks. For what, Vishal? Oh, okay. Ma'am, if letter exceeds more than 200 words, so what's your question? Complete the question. This is a situation. Is the question, will you lose marks? If that is the question, so answer is no, because OET does not count the number of words that you write in the letter, but they just check whether all the required information is included in the letter or not. So 10, 20 words more than 200, 10, 20 words less than 180 is okay. But if they're way too less than 180 or way a lot more than 200, then definitely you would lose marks, because definitely in that case, the summarization of the information is probably not correct, or the irrelevant information has been included, or the relevant one has been included. So in that case, you would lose marks, but 10, 20 words here and there is absolutely. Also, I think some of you had messaged me yesterday as well. I want to highlight there's a change. Please note it down. All the students who are in the bronze group, you will receive your letters for assessment on Wednesday and Saturday, not Monday and Saturday. And for all the students in the gold group, you would receive your letters, follow-up tasks for assessment on Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll repeat: bronze, Wednesday and Saturday, and gold, Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. There is no change to the platinum group. You will receive on all 6 days. No change to the silver group. You will receive on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. This is only for the bronze and the gold students, because many of you messaged me yesterday requesting for follow-up. So bronze students, you'll receive the follow-up tomorrow, so that you have a balanced practice, all of you. That's the reason these changes have been. I'll then wind up the class. Thank you very much for your attendance. You can take a small break of around 8 minutes before your next class. I'll inform your trainer, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.